Welcome to the Aceman, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for downloading us. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate it so very much. And if you have a moment, please give us that 5-star written review wherever you download your podcast. It's a great way to help the podcast. If you want to help us out another way, tell a friend. We all learn about podcasts from our friends' recommendations, and that's a way you can help us out by recommending us to a friend.
And the last way, if you really enjoy the show, is to go to our Patreon page and become a patron. And that is at www.patreon.com/behindthefunny. And what that will get you, it's one simple giving level, $5 a month. That will get you a t-shirt or a mug, some sort of merchandise, as well as unlocking bonus content that only our patrons can access.
Thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to reach out, you got a question for us, you got a comment, anything, please send us an email at behindthefunnypod@gmail.com.
And now, enjoy the show.
Be careful. He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
Thank you for joining us again this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed last week's Best of the Funny Bad Gigs. Absolutely one of my favorite weeks to put together for you guys, because getting to spend time going back and listening to all those amazing stories from people is one of my absolute favorite things to do, because we never run out of not just great stories, but different stories.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked about it the past couple of years, but you know, now that I'm a published author,
there we go. And you are. You absolutely are, and you deserve the credit for it, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we haven't brought it up on the
book has done well.
Yep.
No, we did. We mentioned it one week. We mentioned just before Christmas. We can mention it again. It's got some great reviews. Ace is a published children's author. Maddie loses a tooth. Book finally came out. It's been a couple years in the making. He worked very hard on it. The author, Jonathan Izzard, did an
illustrator.
The illustrator, excuse me. Jonathan Izzard did an amazing job with the illustrations.
Yes.
Ace being the author, wrote the story, and the two of them together combined to make a great children's book, and the reviews have all come back very positive. Yeah,
I've been really proud of it. Reviews have been fantastic. People love the interactive aspect to it, and the fact that it was based on a real story between myself and my youngest daughter. So, but what I was saying was, now that I'm a published author, now we've talked about it for a few years, but we promise you, our audience, we promise you that in 2023,
it's going to happen.
You will get the Funny Bad Gigs book, because I've got some stuff to talk about with Scott off air on how to get this done in an easy way, easier than what we thought it would be. And so we will, in 2023, by the end of the year, we will have a Best of Funny Bad Gigs Behind the Funny podcast book. Promise you.
Yes, and I've talked to several comedians that have been on the show, and they'd be more than happy to allow us to
use their stories
to contribute. So
That's awesome.
I think we'd have a great collection of stories for you guys to
read.
But
Scott, we're not here tonight to talk about books.
I'm stalling.
I know this
because we're going from the best of to the worst of.
To Ace's favorite part of the year. And I think I actually sang, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Because, as we were going
at the beginning of this month,
as we were going through the episodes, the first episode of the year with Satori and Cody.
Yes.
That's exactly how you started that fucking episode, is singing that song.
Because it is the most wonderful time. Because let's face it, folks, we love SCOTTober. It started 4 or 5 years ago.
You're using "we" very freely right now.
Shh. Hush.
Yes.
We started it 4 years ago with our buddy Tom Stewart, who came in with some amazing
Did a great
stories
job.
and
Great
EVPs. And again, we've said it before, but you got to check out his podcast, My Paranormal Story.
Please.
Fantastic podcast. But, it's kind of grown. It went from just having Tom in for one, episode in October or SCOTTober. And then the past couple of years, it just exploded. Last year, we had some great, episodes with Jason Hawes and David Naughton from American Werewolf in London. And this year was no different. We had some amazing guests. But what was interesting was before we even got into SCOTTober, we had a little teaser, didn't we?
Not even planned. Not even
it just
planned.
came up because we were talking about SCOTTober with one of our September or August guests.
It was end of August.
Was
we
it?
had Howie Mason on, a hilarious comedian, and he was telling some great stories. And when we got to his funny bad gigs, just so happens one of his funny bad gigs had a paranormal aspect to it.
And we didn't play it. We cut it out in August, right? We didn't play it in his episode.
I don't remember if we did or
I
didn't,
think
to
we
be
cut it
honest
out
with you.
because we wanted to save it for SCOTTober.
But it was like when he's telling the story, and I'm like, "Holy shit, that really happened!"
Yeah,
and it was an amazing story. And even he said, he goes, "I shit my pants when this happened."
Yeah.
So we're gonna put that one in this, even though it wasn't during SCOTTober. It definitely was a SCOTTober moment. And we got some great stories from Cody and Satori as they came in with stuff from their museum this year. And I tell you, it was hard to pick from all the great stories they had from the items they brought in, but they had one especially, the Tree Angel.
Oh, yeah,
that's still when I listen back to it. As I was picking stories from them, that one still raised the hair on my arms.
Absolutely.
That story was like, oh my. Unbelievable.
That one, and when they sat the doll right next to you, and you just looked over and went, did you need to put the fucking doll right next to me?
On side of me?
That was a good one.
And then the amazing Joe Chin, and just from a historical aspect, some of the places he's been to was just he was such a great guest.
Well, because Ghost Hunters International, which Joe was part of,
right.
He was part of the Ghost Hunters, and then when they picked the international team, he was part of that. So
right.
The fact that he had some of those stories from Europe and from the old world was amazing. That was fantastic. And then then we had Andrea Perron or Perron, who was the if you're a fan of The Conjuring or any of the Conjuring universe movies, it all started with her.
Yeah.
It started with her book, House of Darkness, House of Light, and it was a 3-volume book. Or three book series.
3-book series, right.
All about, her life in the actual Conjuring house, which you're going to hear some great clips from her talking about, what it was like living in that house, some of the stories that she had. And, she was a great storyteller. It was funny at one point, she goes, I'm sorry for not monopolizing the conversation. We're like, we're on the edge of our seats with every word you say, so don't worry about it.
She was so just nice and open with
and although it didn't happen, we talked a little bit on that episode. Although it didn't happen that we didn't get to the Conjuring house with her around Halloween, there is another opportunity in February of 2023 that we're gonna once Scott and I wrap up this episode, we're gonna go out for a cigar and a bourbon, and I'm going to talk him into it because February 17th is a Conjuring House paranormal investigation with our buddy Ken DaCosta. There's a segue because Ken was our last guest in SCOTTober.
Yes.
But it looks like it is going to be fantastic because it's not just a regular 2 or 3 hour investigation. It's an overnight investigation where we will stay there all night.
And one thing I have to say about Ken is now that I've done an investigation, and we talked about it with Ken, and some of those clips will be included tonight, is Ken has a way of making you feel comfortable.
Yep.
The way he approaches it, the way he talks about it, the way he kind of teaches you and guides you through the whole thing. Yeah. He really kind of, helps you understand the whole process.
Yeah.
And, he makes you feel a lot better about it.
A lot more comfortable.
Even when he kind of puts you under the microscope, as they say, which I was put under that microscope.
Yep, and you will hear that in this episode. That'll be at the very end of the episode.
Very end of the episode is going to finish with what's called the Estes method, which I participated in, which was... I didn't understand beforehand. I just participated in it. And then afterwards, when they discussed it, it was like, wow.
But to me, that's what lent some credibility, because you had no idea what was going on. You just put a blindfold over your head, over your face, noise-canceling headphones, and then people were asking questions and getting answers from that radio box. And, even Ken said it. He said, look, a good Estes session is 20% of the answers make sense. He goes, 80% of the answers made sense. And we had done an Estes session with another investigator earlier in the evening, and some of the questions that were asked were similar,
right,
and got the same answers. Right. So that kind of lended a little bit more credibility to it.
It was I don't want to say creepy, but it was weird the way the two kind of lined up, and it was eye opening for me. Yeah, it was eye opening for me. More interesting than scary. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, we hope you guys enjoy this episode. This is the best of SCOTTober. We'll come back at the end and just recap a little bit, but we really hope you guys enjoy this. This is some of the best clips from those 4 episodes in SCOTTober. We hope you enjoy. Yes.
You fell down the rabbit hole.
For those that didn't know, our SCOTTober started 4 years ago. We decided, hey, for October, Halloween theme. Let's do
an episode.
How about I tell the story then?
but you got to say, let's do a.
That's
episode.
what I said.
Episode.
Let's do an episode with our buddy Tom. He can cross promote his very, very good podcast, My Paranormal Story.
Excellent podcast.
And we had him come on, and he. We listened to EVPs, and it's the first time I've seen my co-host quiet for more than 3 seconds. And he was quiet for a good half hour, and I looked over, and his head had beads of sweat all over it. And I said, "You're awfully quiet." And he goes, "I don't like this shit." And SCOTTober was born.
Yeah.
So now we have a whole month worth of guests. So let's talk about what's her name?
This is Jolene.
Jolene
came from a preschool in Connecticut.
Not going to take my man.
No.
She came from a
preschool in Connecticut?
Yep, a preschool in Connecticut. She was actually found at the owners of the preschool's home or
house.
The work of the preschool.
She had moved to Connecticut. Mm-hmm. She bought this brand new house. She used to have a daycare in her basement at her old house, so she bought this new house in Connecticut. She moves in, and this was left in the attic of the house. And she says, wow, I'm opening up a brand new building here in Connecticut. I think this will go great in the play section.
Mm-hmm. And so they take Jolene, they put her with the, in the toys with the children. The children loved Jolene immediately. They were sharing toys with her, having like one-sided conversations as if Jolene was an imaginary friend that they had, and things like that.
She's probably their size.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I mean, in all seriousness, it's not like a little tiny doll. It's like a doll like the size of a 4 or 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So the preschool's done for the day. She puts Jolene on a chair. It's like a metal chair, and locks up everything. She comes back and notices the next day that Jolene's no longer in the chair that she was sat. She's across the room sitting with toys in another position in another section, and this freaked her out. But she thought maybe somebody was playing a prank on me. So she asks everybody else that teaches or works around that area, did you prank us? Did you move Jolene? Did you prank me? That's not funny. Own up to it. And they said no, there was no way we could have pranked you. You're the only one that could get in and out after locking up. So we wanted to, we wouldn't have been able to do that anyway. So she tries to forget about it. She picks everything up. Another period of time goes by, sits Jolene back on the chair, leaves the room, comes back, and Jolene's no longer on her chair again. This happened a couple times. She's in different positions, different sections. The children were hysterical. They were claiming that Jolene was calling them names and not sharing with them anymore, and having, like, they were crying with this doll. It was like everything changed. Jolene's personality completely changed. So this freaked out the owner so much with the movement and the children being hysterical that she contacted us. She contacted Cody and was saying, I'm not going back into that area until you get Jolene and get her out. Wow. So she told Cody what to find. He went in, took her out, and then they went about their business. And everything seems okay since then. And in the museum, she's in the top 5 because we cannot keep her still.
Really?
Yes, she'll always move. The first time it happened, we had taken her off her chair that we put her in the museum to change a light bulb to use the chair to stand on. And when we looked back in the section, she was no longer there. She was actually across the room in one of our spinny chairs where we do our live streams with her legs crossed, like she was a little upset.
Is someone upstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say I heard that.
We get an EVP.
My daughter came home. I saw Cody and Tom were like, get the equipment out.
I'm like, what is the noise I'm hearing?
We're doing an EVP session.
You guys just scared the shit out of me. Oh, Tom's head.
Me and Cody are like
Tom's head fucking turned, and he was like, "What is that?" And I'm like,
Dobermans our ears.
You're talking about a doll that moves in the middle of that. Holy shit!
God, I'm sorry.
No,
Go
it's
ahead,
fine.
Satori.
That was
Finish.
just one occurrence. She's
Yeah.
always moving. We find her in other sections where around other idols and statues and other dolls. She has a lot of character. She actually had both of her shoes when we got her, I believe, but one shoe went missing after one movement. We haven't been able to find it since. She had one shoe on, but she moved again and lost her other shoe and brought it back. So we said, might as well not do that because we're going to be looking around Ace's house for a shoe. So
that would be so cool. I would love that.
So we brought her without her shoes.
That'd be so cool if, like, next week we got Tom back here and her shoe is hanging up on the wall or something.
But yeah, she moves a lot.
And so have you ever seen her, because I know you've got cameras in the museum.
Yes.
Have you seen her physically move, or she just ends up in different places? You've never seen it.
Every time we pointed a camera at Jolene, especially after this first time, nothing happens. Nothing. It's like she knows
She's
when the
camera
camera's
shy.
on her. Yeah, exactly.
But there
Unlike
was
Liza, who doesn't give a shit.
Right.
Yes. There was one time, though, we were at an event and she was sitting in a chair, and we don't set her in a metal chair anymore during events because she slid down on the chair while we were taking a break. And But the thing is, she swung her arms under and caught herself from the back legs of the chair like this.
Yes.
And she was hanging off of it, and the woman screamed. She was like, "You did that!" And I'm across the room like, I don't even know what happened. I'm still trying to assess the situation. But she moved one time, and that's freaked people out.
I remember you telling me that at Paracon last year, because you had her at Ocean State
Yes, we
Paracon
did.
last year.
Yeah.
And she was in a chair.
You okay?
I need a drink.
SCOTTober.
Oh, that's
Scott's going to be sleeping over tonight. I'm too shit-faced to drive.
She caught herself in a chair.
In a chair.
Yeah.
In
I remember
public.
you telling me
Yeah,
that last
she did.
year.
She
That
did.
is crazy.
Yeah, there was a bunch of witnesses to that one. These
All right,
are a
Scott.
new addition. Some of the newer ones.
You're going to get the chills on this one.
I like how you got a display for it too.
Yeah.
I would say that you're assuming, but you're dead on.
No,
You're dead on.
You're gonna
No, it
because
gives me
this one gives us
Yeah.
the chills.
Did you guys steal this from Macy's? Is what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Macy's,
stand?
JCPenney.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yep. So
He went to Jared's. Sorry, I had to lighten the mood a little bit.
Nice.
that's funny.
All right. Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody.
No. That's
All right. So a single mother in Alabama. She has 2 small children, and the children are at school, and she's waiting for them to come off the bus. So she's running around the house trying to finish up some last-minute chores before they get off the bus. And, she's kind of becoming frantic. She has to make them a snack. She has to take care of the dog, feed the dog, let him out. And in walks her mother. Now, this wasn't unusual. She lived about 30 minutes away. She would always stop in and out unannounced because, she's the kid's grandmother. But this day was weird because it was a Wednesday. Now, the reason why it was strange was the mother, the grandmother, would always go to church twice a week. She would go every Wednesday to do her rosary beads and every Sunday to go to regular church service.
Mass.
So she walks in on a Wednesday, and the daughter's like, "Ma, why are you here? How come you're not at church today?" And she holds up the rosary bead, and she goes, "I have a headache today, and I've been going twice a week for decades. God's not going to get mad if I miss one day." So they have a laugh, and She goes, well, I'm trying to do all the stuff. I have to make the kids snack. I have to let the dog out. And the mother goes, let me handle the dog. I'll feed the dog and let the dog outside, and you worry about the kids' snack. So they say, okay, they agree on it, and they have a conversation and catch up. She starts hearing the school bus come down the street. So the daughter says to mother, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get the kids off the bus. So she walks to the end of the driveway. The kids get off the bus, and she tells the kids, oh, Grandma's here. They get really excited, so they start walking back towards the house. When they walk back, the daughter's cell phone rings, and it's her sister. And the sister says, I've been trying to reach you for the past hour, but the phone line has been busy. Who have you been on the phone with? She goes, I haven't been on the phone. So she says, well, I hate to tell you this, but we found Mom had passed away in her sleep last night.
Wow.
So she drops the phone and runs inside the house and finds that the dog has been let outside, the dog bowl is filled with food, and the mother's rosary beads are sitting on the counter.
Wow. She had one last visit.
And that's
Yeah.
what she thinks. She thinks it was her mom's way of saying goodbye, and I'm okay.
I'm still here for you.
Yes,
but
and so she wanted to donate these rosaries to the
That's
museum.
such a common phenomenon.
It is, yeah. Crisis apparition.
Crisis apparition.
Yeah.
It's happens
So many times.
people.
Yeah.
So this is a tree topper angel. Wow. All right, and she has the nickname Angel of Fire. She was actually nicknamed, not to scare Scott, Death Angel by the family in which she came from. And no, she's not a darker item. She just has a very, I guess, scary story. So a woman was...
Some people would think she's a dark item.
Some people would. She's just never done anything to lead us to believe
Not
in the
to us,
museum that we need to worry about her. Well, not really like
Well.
well, not anything that's like, wow, this
fire
is
related anyway.
deadly.
They're arguing
well-
over whether she's dark or not. This is not good.
So no,
On second thought,
well, she
She's
kind
always
of
been
she really hasn't.
respectful.
Well, maybe.
she's always been respectful.
But
Yeah.
done some questionable things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we, a family in Massachusetts, a woman was walking through a secondhand store, and she finds this tree topper angel.
Again, magnetic pull.
It's a Gifts of Gorham is what we were able to find, about 70s, 80s, I believe. It's just cardboard with porcelain hands and head. And she fell in love with the angel. She was like, oh, we have live Christmas trees every year. Bring it home, put it on top of the Christmas tree. The kids, the family will love it. She has 2 kids and a husband. So she takes the item back home, and they have their real Christmas tree. That's their family tradition. They take the tree topper and put it on top of the tree. Everything seems perfect. They go to bed that night and wake up to the smell of smoke, but no smoke alarms going off. They run downstairs to the tree is a stick. It's not on fire anymore. It looks like it was on fire and put itself out, and the angel is sitting on top of it. Now, that's the story that we were told. She was
Yep.
perfectly fine. They were terrified. They thought, they could have slept through an entire fire, and they didn't know what to do. So they immediately go, well, it's not Christmas yet. We need a new tree. We need to change all of the electrical stuff, because if
Yeah.
it was an electrical fire that somehow put itself
Husband
out.
was an electrician, so
Yes,
that's the
he's-
first thing he
he's
did.
looking over everything. They called the security company because the smoke alarm was with the security stuff, and they were like, no, I can't tell you why it didn't go off, but we'll make sure everything's replaced. The batteries are good. Everything's going good. So if anything happens again, that you guys will have notification of it. So they get a new Christmas tree. Again, this is Christmas of 2019.
Bought some fire extinguishers just in case.
Yes, and they get a new Christmas tree, fire extinguisher, set her back on the tree because the mom says, well, maybe she's a good luck angel. She put out the fire. So maybe this is something that's protecting us. So put her back on the tree, go to bed, smoke. Wake up to the smell of smoke again. They run downstairs and they say they saw the tree actively on fire. It started catching some of the curtains. It was in like this little divot side of the house, they described it, kind of like a little corner where the house comes out. They said the fire started moving and they were able to put it out. They were absolutely terrified. They said, enough of Christmas of 2019. We're done. We're not doing this anymore.
Right.
So they put everything in the attic. They just celebrate Christmas as usual without the tree. The children between Christmas of 2019 and Christmas of 2020 started having nightmares. They started seeing a woman. They were in 2 different rooms. They were dreaming of this woman that had some weird I guess the only way you could say it is like she had
Deformities
some deformities, like her limbs were
Not where they should be.
Yeah.
Yes. So they were terrified because they were saying the same things over and over
Which
again.
is pretty much impossible. 2 kids, separate ages, not twins, because that's been reported, but having same dream on the same night, down the hall from each other. That's really strange.
So Christmas of 2020 comes, and they get a new Christmas tree, and they find the angel in the attic, and the mom says, we got to put her back on the tree. I feel like we have to put her back on the tree. Maybe
I would have
last year
gotten
was
a fake
different.
tree at this point. By
Yeah.
the third year,
The
fake
hus-
tree.
That's what the husband
Husband
wanted
was
all
like,
that.
no.
And then if it catches on fire, all right, it's that fucking angel.
Yeah.
But
The husband
Sorry.
said no. The husband was like, I don't feel comfortable with this, but she convinced him, and so he put it on the tree.
Drink up, Scott.
They went to bed, wake up to the smell of smoke. They run downstairs.
I knew it.
The
I
side
knew
of the house is actually completely caught.
Oh, my.
Everything, like, the side of the house is completely engulfed in flames, they said. The only one statement I will forever remember is they looked at me while giving this item, and they were like, we were lucky to get our kids out alive because they
shit.
said the fire was moving. Now, this is a story we were told.
So wait, here's the best part. So they move houses, right?
Yes, they relocated houses.
They relocate house, and of course the old house is getting ready to be demolished or whatever they're going to do with it. And when the fire department puts out a fire, usually they have to do some sort of study or whatever. They bring in a specialist to do that.
Yeah, the fire investigator.
Right. So anyway, so somehow the wife goes over to the old house and walks into it and finds the angel and puts it in a
The husband said it
grocery
just like
bag.
appeared, like it was just appeared, but she must have gone and
brings it back.
brought it home. It somehow was survived the fires.
So obviously now
It's like she's attached to
There's
it.
an attachment for sure, and the husband's doing his best to convince her that something is going on.
So
And
we go to the new house, and it's just waiting there. And he's like, it's not going to be in our home any longer. It's leaving. And after a while, after we took it, you saw that she started to realize what was going on. She started coming out of it, and she was like, okay, maybe there was some sort of attachment. Like, I felt the need to keep doing this. But we took the angel. We were a little skeptical of the story. We were like, okay,
Big time.
A tree topper angel not catching on fire, but the house is catching on fire. So we were a little skeptical. We brought her home. She was covered in this like dirt, we thought. We cleaned her off. Quarantine went fine. Put her in a case in the museum. And one day before we did a live stream, Cody goes to take her out of the case. The day before, or a couple days before, I said she may never prove her claim during an interview. And I'm not sure if she took that as, you want to see me prove my claim or what. So Cody takes her out of the case. And I say, don't move, because she's absolutely covered in this like gray substance, this gray and black substance. And it was a little circle in the case of where under her tree topper piece. And we were instantly like, there had to have been a fire. So we're checking everything. It doesn't seem like there was any fire damage anywhere. All the outlets look fine near her. And I was like, Cody, something happened. And we sat down in the chair, and during our live stream, we look up, and on the wall right behind where we do our live streams, it looks like 3 fingerprints moved across the wall, almost like a little symbol of, I'm here, I did something. So we were absolutely amazed. We bleach tested it, which we were given the recommendation to do. And if it stayed black on a bleached Q-tip, then that means it's a soot-like substance. And we did, and it stayed black. So we believe it's a soot-like substance. We don't think it's mold because it comes off. It's like dust. It's like some sort of dark dust.
Well, and if you put bleach on mold, it's going to kill
It's gonna,
it.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be gone.
right.
So
be gone.
we cleaned her off. Christmas of 2021, we have her in the museum, and we had to have a live camera and an
Yeah, I was
extinguisher
like, shit,
nearby.
Christmas
because
is coming.
She kept getting more and more covered. Every day she was just getting more and more covered, to the point where now when we had to travel with her, we had to clean her off because you couldn't see any of like the features of her. Like, she was just absolutely covered.
Can I share a couple?
Yes, you may.
All right,
Please.
Absolutely.
What time does the security come and close this place down?
Listen, it's my fucking house.
All right,
You
so
can
okay.
stay as long
So,
as you want. I
well,
got 3 bedrooms.
The
Kids
worst
aren't even
one.
home.
The worst one still hasn't changed. It was a hot air balloon festival in Middle Connecticut.
How can that not work?
I know exactly?
Did you have to do comedy from a hot air balloon?
That would have been better.
Wait a second.
At least I would have had an escape route.
Item number 13
It's a hot air balloon festival.
on It's a Bad Gig when.
Okay.
Hot air balloon festival.
I'm going to give you 14, 15, and 16.
Okay.
too.
All right.
So first of all, it was on a July afternoon, so we
Okay.
all know. So it's outside, so we all know that's a little dicey.
Yep.
Daylight. The stage was between a moon bounce and a fried dough stand.
Oh.
And there was
Were they both active at the time?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
And there were no seats in front of the stage. So I'm just getting walking traffic. You know, that's all I'm getting. So people walk by.
Walking by. What's going
was
on
this
here?
Was this a fair or something?
Yeah, it was the hot air balloon festival. So like,
this is at the
so
festival. Okay.
so they have all the everybody's just waiting for the balloons to take off. But yeah, they have a magician, and someone invited me to do comedy. And I had friends there because I worked one town over, and my kids came, and like it's like, hey, you can see Dad. It's in the afternoon. You can come to the show. It'd be great. You can watch Dad sweat by himself for half an hour.
You did 30 minutes.
30 minutes, and it was brutal. Like people were watching by, and all of a sudden you'd say, I'd be in the middle of a bit going, the Ocean State job lot, and all of a sudden it's like guy would just turn and go, nah, all right, whatever, just keep walking. Like
right.
No
that sounds like the end of Braveheart.
No one stayed. Yeah, it was
when he's being disemboweled on the table in front of everybody.
The only thing that was a saving grace was I had a show that night, so I got the stink off.
Talk about that. Yeah,
right.
Immediately.
An actual show, right?
So a couple of the newer ones. So this one was actually a fun show. It was me and Billy Wynn.
Yep. Love Billy.
I love Billy.
And Dr. J was
Dr. J.
Who loved the man.
Absolutely.
So
we love him too.
We were at an Italian restaurant in, I want to say, Monroe, Connecticut. And the weird thing about this place was when you walked in the front door, if you took a left, you got to the restaurant. And if you took a right, there was like this little room that was labeled the Warrens Museum of the Occult.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Ed and
Lorraine
Lorraine Warren.
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, so I guess they had some little room over there. I always thought the museum was at their
the
house.
Restaurant? I thought the museum was at their house.
Yeah,
but I didn't know if they had like some little side thing where they, So anyway, we're doing the show and it's a fundraiser and Billy's doing the raffle. We're doing the raffle. We're having a great time. And he goes, "Just talk for a couple minutes. I'm going to write the check out like on the big board."
Yeah,
yeah.
And so I'm just kind of talking to everybody, and all of a sudden, while I'm talking,
Annabelle comes running.
There's a
fucking floating.
I was thinking the same thing. I couldn't think of her name.
There's a light flashing in the corner.
No.
In the corner.
No.
And I'm not a horror movie guy.
Yeah.
So
you think someone's lighting you to get off stage?
I wasn't even on the stage. I was at the back of the room next to the bar. And all of a sudden I said, well, something's going on over there with the light. I think somebody's sending the signals from a boat or something. And I was making some joke. And all of a sudden, one of the servers runs over. She goes, "That might be Annabelle." I'm like,
"No."
And I'm sorry. She goes, "It might be." And so I said, all of a sudden I just go, "Annabelle, did you have a good time tonight?" And all of a sudden it starts flashing even faster.
No.
And I said to everybody, I said, I think Billy's going to have to finish the show because I just shit myself.
I just shit myself from that fucking story.
And then the servers just came over.
You gotta be kidding me.
The servers came over and talked to me like, yeah, we have like pots that move all the time. They talk like a whole laundry list of shit that happens in that restaurant.
Seriously.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Dude, thank you for doing this.
Fucking
thank
kidding
you for
me.
telling that because Scott shits his pants the entire month
This
of
is
SCOTTober.
fucking
And he thinks he's safe through the rest of the year until we get to SCOTTober, and you just scared the shit out of him. I love it. I love it.
I think, and I'm not a big occult guy.
Yeah,
it was just like,
oh yeah, I'm not that big on it either.
And it's just bizarre,
Wow,
and then,
dude. Now, have you ever been on an investigation anywhere where you truly felt uncomfortable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if I could. There's quite a few.
I know one. I don't know where it was, but if you don't mention it, I'm going to mention it. So go ahead. I've done my research.
The most jarring for me probably was Castle Dragslum in Denmark, where we had to sleep in the castle and investigate. And I went in the dungeon with another investigator. Supposedly Mary Queen of Scots' husband died and was in prison down there and starved to death, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we were down there, small room, stone walls, dirt floor, just two investigators and a camera guy in the corner. We're pretty separated. We've been down there for an hour doing investigation. Nothing, no sounds, no voices, no weird feelings. So I started to joke around a little bit. I'm like, "Oh God, it's dead around here. Let's go to a different part of the castle." So we started to go up the stairs, and as I was going up the stairs, I feel my arm burning and sting. I'm like, "Oh, it's stinging."
Yeah.
So he said, "Wait till we get to the top of the stairs. We'll turn on the lights and see what's going on." Sure enough, it was cold, so I had my jacket and a sweatshirt. And then I get to the top of the stairs. I pull up my sleeve and I turn my hand on, and I had teeth marks. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4 tooth, and then another one, a space. So whatever bit me had like a missing tooth.
I remember that.
Not the bottom.
Yep.
And I could feel the indent of the teeth. I remember that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
They're like, awesome, you need to go back down right now. And
And you're like, screw you.
I don't think so.
Exactly.
I gotta wrap my head around it.
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I had to go back down, and nothing happened. So
Nothing happened after that.
That's crazy.
I was joking around saying it's dead around here.
Well, they showed you, didn't they?
Don't mess with those European ghosts because they get mean.
Now, how old was that castle, roughly?
Oh God, Castle Dragstrom. I want to say the 15th century, maybe.
I was gonna. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Wow. What is kind of like the craziest EVP that you caught that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe that I just caught this, or the one that you're like, that one kind of jolted me or caught me off guard?
Oh yeah,
because we've heard some ones from the Payne house that of the little girl there saying things that. I heard it on Ken's site of when them doing the ABCs with her, and stuff like that. That is just chilling when you hear that.
Yeah. For me, I do love listening for EVPs, and I find that kids are around a lot. I remember we did a TAPS case in Massachusetts, Leominster, Mass, I believe, and it was a same-sex couple. And they were having paranormal activity in the house, and they say that they see a child. Well, in the bedroom we had set up a voice recorder, and then we caught in that room what sounds like little boys saying, "I'm cold." So
Really?
like, wow, that thing saying "I'm cold."
That clearly? Did you hear it?
Yes, I'm cold. And
Wow.
It's crazy. And then we have another TAPS case where we did a library. And my brother Wellington and another TAPS member, Steve Mills, which you probably know, was going down to set up the video camera. And as they were going down the stairs, it was just the two guys, and there were no females on there. And you hear a woman say, "What's that?" Because they were setting up a camera.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your favorite investigation?
I want to say probably the ATM cave in Belize.
The what?
Where it turned into an adventure. We had to hike into the jungle for 2 miles. We had to have the equipment brought in on donkeys and horses and other Sherpas, climbing in and out of jungle and try not to touch anything that would kill you.
It sounds like romancing the stone.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, that's a cute little lizard. Yeah, don't touch it. It'll kill you.
What a beautiful purple flower. Yeah, it's poisonous.
Yeah, I remember climbing, and I had my hand on the ledge, and they were like, "Joe, don't move your hand because there's a snake."
Jeez.
But then going into the cave, you had to go down into a ravine, and you had to swim 25 feet into the cave with all your gear on.
Wow.
Climb out, and then you had to spelunk, squeeze into crevices, climb on the rocks. That was really cool. And up to your neck in water, and then you see all these stalactites and all these caves. It's awesome.
Yeah, unless of course you're claustrophobic, and then you're shitting your pants the whole time.
I was just going to say cool and awesome are not two words I'd use for.
But some parts were claustrophobic,
Yeah.
squeezing it, but then it opens up to this big cavern where it's like a football field inside.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you get any evidence in there?
They got some EVPs, but I wanted to see what was called the Crystal Maiden, because at the end of the 2-mile tunnel, there was a skeleton that crystallized, and it looks like crystals that form on the bones. And you shine lights on it, and it kind of shimmers. Sparkles. Yeah, it's crazy. You had to take your shoes off because there was still a lot of pottery, and it was still a place that they were digging. So you had to be very, very careful. You couldn't.
So in other words, you had to swim in there, but at some point in history, someone lived in there.
Yes.
Wow.
That's an Indiana Jones movie. He just did.
No shit.
Like sacrifices. They sacrificed and killed in there.
Well, and you know, I mean, a lot could have happened in 1,000 years. So maybe you didn't have to swim in. Maybe you could have walked in back then, but then the cave flooded. But
Yeah.
imagine that. How the hell does someone find that?
Yeah,
for the first time. Like, hey, I got a hunch. Let's swim, and I hopefully there's enough. You know, there's air pockets on the way.
Bruce Wayne found it.
Yeah, right?
Trying to build a new Batcave.
That's crazy.
Right, but it was cool. It was kind of like an adventure show at that point. I kind of liked it a little bit.
Well, the day that we moved in, I saw a full body apparition that looked like flesh and blood to me. I said, "Good morning, sir," and I walked past him. I'm sure I assumed he was either a friend or a relative of Mr. Kenyon's, and Mr. Kenyon was in the dining room packing up a box of china out of the corner cupboard. And I talked with him briefly, and then I turned with the box that I was carrying. This is on moving day, like 2 minutes into moving day. And there he's standing in the corner, and I hadn't seen him when I walked in the room, but I don't know. I was a 12-year-old. I just turned and I saw him, and a polite one at that. I said, "Good morning, sir." He looked right through me like I was the ghost. Like he didn't even see me. He was fixated on Mr. Kenyon. So I go in the kitchen and ask my mom who the guy is with Mr. Kenyon. And she said, "Nobody's with him. His son's on the way. He's not here yet." And so, I just figured truly it was a neighbor stopped by or, something.
Right.
And I went back out around from the kitchen door to get the next box. And meanwhile, my sister, and April, my baby sister, was in the kitchen with my mother unpacking boxes marked kitchen so that we could eat a meal there that night. And it was a wicked storm. I mean, wicked ice pellets like pelting you in the face, and so windy. And so I wanted to just hustle back out and get another box and let's get this done and over with. And there was a whole caravan of people. My aunts and uncles and my grandmother was there. And I mean, it was just crazy. It was moving day. And then Christine walked into the kitchen. She saw him and walked past him in the front foyer, asked my mom who he was. Mom wasn't interested in going to find out. She was unpacking boxes. And so then Cindy came in and she's like, "Mom, who's that man with Mr. Kenyon? He's dressed funny." And my mother's like, "It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Go get me another box." But before Cindy could leave the kitchen, Nancy walked in and leaned over to her and said, "Cin, did you see that man with Mr. Kenyon?" "I did, but he just disappeared." And that was our introduction. That moment was our introduction.
So when you say immediately, literally immediately on moving day, you saw something.
And then my sister, we saw him all day, off and on, just the four of us. The two men that he was standing right beside, my father and Mr. Kenyon, did not see him, but all four of us did.
Just you girls.
And Mom kept my baby sister April with her in the kitchen and never even came into that room because she was not only having to unpack all of our dishes and glassware, she was having to use all the packing material and the boxes to pack Mr. Kenyon because he was not ready to go. Meanwhile, my father said, "Earl Kenyon, Earl, this house is plenty big enough. You can just stay here with us and live with us if you want." We loved him.
Yeah.
What a wonderful man.
Really?
And he got all tears in his eyes and it was heartbreaking. And he said, "I can't, my son will never allow that." And
so was he
just
moving?
Heartbreaking. And there's the spirit standing right in the corner of the room. And the expression on his face was that he felt the same sorrow of Mr. Kenyon leaving.
That he really didn't want to leave.
That he didn't really want him to go. It was amazing. But we knew enough not to say anything because it was obvious that the two adult men in the room did not see him. Well, he kept appearing over and over again. And a few days into our new home, my sister Nancy named him Manny because he was a man. And she needed to call him something when she was talking to us about what she saw and what she saw disappear. And so she named him Manny. This is in January of 1971. Yep. Fast forward to January of 2022. And Cody and Satori are at the farm and a spirit comes through named Joseph. Now, my mother did the historical research on the property, and the only one that she could find that had died in the house was a man named Johnny Arnold, around 1850, had died in the house. And he seemed to be, according to the death certificate, roughly the same age visually. So we just figured all these years, half a century, that Manny was Johnny Arnold, who died drinking horse liniment in one of the eaves of the house.
Really?
Cody and Satori. Knock, knock, knock. Tap, tap, tap on the unified field of consciousness. And who comes through but Joseph?
Wow.
And he says, when everybody looks at each other and says, do you remember a Joseph in the books? Is there any mention of a Joseph as a spirit? And everybody's kind of shaking their heads. And he clarifies through them. Nancy called me Manny.
Wow.
Holy shit. And they had no way of knowing that, right?
Absolutely.
They didn't know that. That wasn't in the books or anything like that.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
And I'll just tell you my quick experience last week when I was at the Conjuring house, because Cody and Satori were there.
Right.
Andrea, we were up in the far bedroom upstairs, and there was a group there. Just, they had paid to do like an investigation, and Cody and Satori were there to do their thing. And I was just kind of hanging around. I wasn't part of it. So I just stood in the doorway, minded my business, didn't talk, didn't get involved. And all of a sudden they started doing their thing, and I could hear the knocking behind me coming from the other room. And it went right through me and into the room to where Cody and Satori were.
Yes.
Like I felt and heard the knocks on the floor or wherever it's coming from go right past me. It blew my mind. It was
you
like
can't
something
discern where it's coming from.
You
That's
really can't.
the thing.
But I could tell that it came from the other room and rushed in right through me because I was blocking the doorway to get in that room to communicate with Cody and Satori. And the spirit was Abigail. I guess you'll know who that is.
I know her. Abigail Arnold. Yep.
Abigail's message was that, I forget the name now, but somebody had stolen something from the garden and she's still upset about it. That was the message that came through.
Wow. And what was Abigail in relation to Joseph? Because they both had the same last name, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you know what? You know what got stolen from the garden? Oh, my God, Tom. I mean, right now here in real time, I'm learning something from a spirit from my childhood home through you on your live air.
It was meant to be, I guess.
Oh, my God. Okay. My mother found a pewter buckle from like shoes that the Puritans used to wear. A square, like a rectangular pewter buckle she found in the garden. And she had put it in a paper bag along with several other artifacts that she had discovered on the property. And the night that the Warrens came to do the seance, that bag of artifacts that was in the corner cupboard in the dining room disappeared.
Oh,
really?
Yes. Nobody has ever heard this story before. I am telling you live. This is what happened.
That
freaky. Bag disappeared. It had a perfume bottle in it that she had dug out of the dump behind the barn. It had a doll's head on it, and I've been told where these items have been seen before, but I'm not even gonna go there. It's too late. They are gone. They were taken.
I was just going to ask, has anyone seen, because I know the Warrens have, I know they both have passed on, but there's a museum in Connecticut. Have those items been seen there?
They have been seen in a setting where they are under glass.
Really? Holy
All I'm going to say. The day that we left, my mother said to me, I told her about something that had happened that she had not seen. I mean, she saw it, but she didn't see it from my angle or perspective.
Okay.
And I told her about it as we were packing the last day that we were packing. And, we were leaving that day to drive caravan style to Georgia and leave my sister Nancy behind, which was awful. And as we were, as I was telling her the story, she paused and she looked up at me and she had tears in her eyes. And my mother is not a crier. And she said, I always knew we bought this house for you.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my sister, as we were leaving, I'm like, Mom, look at the window behind Nancy. Nancy was standing on the front porch when it still had a front porch. And there was an apparition standing of the woman standing right behind her. And my mom looked at her and she's like, it's her choice to stay. We can't drag her along. It's her choice to stay. And she says, but I'll tell you what, I'll never step foot back on this property for the rest of my life. And she has been true to her word.
Really? She's never wanted to go back.
Nope. And when we got to the house in Georgia, Cindy and a family friend had taken our horses down and gotten them situated in the barn and acclimated to the property and getting the house ready for us. And when we got there, the apparition of the same woman was standing behind my sister Cindy in the kitchen window. And my mother grabbed a hold of my hand on the steering wheel and she said, oh my God, this isn't over. This will never be over. And no truer words were ever spoken.
Jeez.
Now, see, that would have been the perfect ending to the movie.
That's a movie right there.
Right, exactly. How the hell did they not pick that as the ending of the movie? Jesus.
So I could use it.
Yes, there you go.
That's right.
The universe takes care of me.
Awesome. And if you need someone to be an extra and dress in a dress and be that apparition, I'm not above putting a dress on, Andrea.
I'm just
honey, I fear you are above nothing.
No, I'm not.
No truer words have ever been spoken.
Scott, I've heard you're a total wuss.
And what's your point?
Tom told me that. I think.
And what's your point?
I think I told you that too last year.
And I think that you did tell me that. Yes.
That's so funny.
Andrea, I was bullied as a kid. This does not bother me at all. I am absolutely.
So was I.
Yeah.
I am absolutely embracing my wussiness. I have no problem with that.
These turn your thing down.
All right, these things are telling us don't play this fucking episode.
Oh no, I don't give
in.
in.
No, we're not giving in that
these
easy.
These attachments are telling us.
No.
Stand your ground, guys.
So now,
let me recap. We were going to play an EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon. This is when we have a recorder going. And we try to ask questions and see if it will respond, and the recorder will pick it up.
And we did this in every room that we went into for a little while.
Yeah.
And so this was out in the stable. And in the stable, there's an old fire apparatus, like from the old days, like a horse would pull it.
Horse-drawn one.
Yes.
It's a horse-drawn pumper for anybody that knows fire apparatus.
There you go. Yep.
Where once they get there, they actually have to hand pump it to move the water.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Very cool antique. And you were very interested in that, and you actually asked a question about it. And this is going to be Scott asking about that fire apparatus, the horse-drawn fire hose thing. All right, and then right about 7 or 8 seconds, you're going to hear a voice. I'm going to play it more than once, but here we go.
Did you tend to the horses for the fire department?
You hear that right there?
I couldn't make out what they said, but I did hear it.
Yep. I'm going to play just the voice.
You hear like an
sounds
S
like a
sound,
word,
right?
Yeah.
Right here. I'm gonna amplify it a little bit here just so you can hear it better. So now the robot kind of sound you hear in the background, that's just the computer taking out the noise. It's kind of a filter. But this is the word. Something's saying something here.
Yeah.
I feel like it's saying horse or hose.
Yeah. Sounds like hose.
I'm thinking hose or horse, but it's definitely right after
Did you
you
tend
asked.
to the horses for the fire department?
Did you tend to the horses for the fire
Did you tend
department?
to the horses for the fire department?
And then here it comes. Now here's the robot stuff. Ignore that.
Might have been yes.
Could have been a yes.
Could have been a yes.
What do you think, Ken?
Hard S at the end.
Yeah.
And within the context of the question, the guy who built the place was a blacksmith. Name was Brayton, and the whole business model for the place as a tavern and an inn was based on a horse-drawn carriage or stagecoach, whatever, with carrying passengers from Hartford or from Boston to Hartford. And they would stop in, and because he was a blacksmith by trade, they would stable the horses, feed the horses, shoe the horses. So within the context of the question, it makes sense if it's horse, whatever the case may be. Pretty subjective, but I get
definitely
a hard S at the end.
Yeah, you definitely hear that hard S.
It's
at
one
the
of
end,
the
right?
more interesting ones, I thought, though, just because it sounds like it's related to the question, in response to the question. And in the area we were in, being the stables, there were no other people around but the three of us.
No, and it was pretty quiet in there.
Yeah.
Too, because you're further back from the busy road and everything.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
You got to remember that you could be tapping into what we call a residual. You could be hearing a conversation that somehow is still in that environment that happened 200 years ago when they're talking about turnips and squash, which has nothing to do with the question you just asked. So it comes down to words.
Right.
And just because it doesn't make sense, you don't just toss it.
Yeah.
Exactly. No. So
while we're on EVPs, you want me to play?
I would feel more comfortable if they said turnips and squash, because at least they would know that I'm not there.
Night, by the end of the night, we were all talking about when we're going to go and do the Bradley Theater.
And by the way, just as a side thing, Ken and I talked.
Good.
I had the board there asked me to put together a proposal, and I did, and I submitted to them at their next meeting. They're going to bring it up and let us know when we can. Unfortunately, November is a very busy month for them between, ending the Halloween show. We have a comedy show. They get ready for their Christmas show. So November is going to be a tough month. They're going to go over the proposal and let me know what dates
January
and when we can do something. But we're going to get something done there. That's
good. And if it makes any difference, this is something where if we do get a date, it's between us. We don't have to, put it out to the world today.
No, and that's what I told them. I said myself and this group and some other people.
Satori and Cody would be available.
I just need a night where I can have some access. I said nothing's going to be disturbed. We just need some time. And
we've done things where we've done presentations at theaters, literally in Connecticut, where for a fee to benefit the place, we take patrons through.
Right, and they did that a couple of years ago before the pandemic, where for a weekend to raise funds, they did. They had, where people could pay a fee and come in and do their own thing, like you did at the Paint House.
But you know what? You know what would be cool is if we did the investigation and then next SCOTTober we did the podcast, where we played all of the evidence for them. And had Ken and Tom, that would be fantastic. Wouldn't that be cool?
And then we could charge could charge a ticket price, and all the ticket price goes to them.
Yeah. That'd be great. All right,
so I'd be willing to do that.
This whole meeting could have been a memo.
I know, right? I was just thinking that somehow we just had a meeting. You could tell Scott got more calm as the investigation went on because at the beginning of the investigation, he was a bit jumpy. Right? Do you want to play those?
A little bit.
Is that the room where I asked Tom what the hell was going on?
Oh, you want the one with the when he asked about the noise?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this
is my funny bad gig moment from tonight.
All right.
Yeah. So Scott,
this was up in the attic, I believe.
I believe it was. Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Can you shift something? Move something? What was that? I heard something. Was that like a creak? I wasn't sure if it was a creak or it did sound like a growl though, but it sounded kind of like a door. I heard something. If that was you, can you do it again? There it is again. Yeah, it sounds like it's a car outside.
Scott's freaking out.
I'm frozen with fear at a car driving by outside.
If I ever write a book on my experiences in the paranormal, the title would be "What Was That?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you
What
hear
was that? It was just a car.
I am sitting there like, Tom, what was that? And he goes, that's a car
I think
outside.
it's a car. It's a muffler, Scott. We're good. So I've got one more where we're asking it to knock for us.
It's not that hard. Just knock, and we'll go.
There's one.
That was definitely a knock.
So we hear the knock there.
And we'll go.
Yeah, you definitely
You
heard
hear
it.
a knock there. Now, I mean,
and then
you know.
especially because you pointed it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I'm going to turn it up.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a knock there. I mean, I don't know. It's
I don't remember
it's a
hearing
big
that
house,
that
but-
night.
Well, we did
he
hear
said
it because
We heard
at the
it.
end
I remember
pointed
him
out.
saying it, but I don't remember hearing it myself.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that I can put to that is that this is the type of phenomena we've got there in the past, because we have got our knocks in response to asking for them.
Questions.
Not
Yeah.
all the time, but it's not anything unusual. So
You have one more, right?
I got one more. This is the one that I wanted everyone to hear for sure, especially Scott.
So
because this is an interesting
listen
one.
carefully to the question and the answer.
Let me find it here. Okay. The EVP part is at the very end. Okay. It should
Do you
be
remember where it
self-explanatory.
was and everything?
This was in the dining room right next to the rocking chair room. So this would have been the second room we went into.
Okay.
And we were all sitting at a table.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yep.
I remember.
Okay. Here we go.
I know you can knock on the table because I've heard it before.
Did you hear that voice at the end?
I did.
You wanna
What
hear
did it
again?
say?
I'm going to play it again.
Listen.
Hold on. I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to amplify it. That's all I'm doing is just amplifying it really loud so you can kind of hear it better. What do you think?
all right, is there a bang before that voice?
There's a slight bang before it.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds like the male voice saying knock. Like
Yeah.
in other words,
Say
like
knock.
in other words, this.
I knocked or it's knocked.
Yep.
Yeah.
See,
Something like that.
Here's what I thought
Yeah.
it said when I heard it.
I thought I heard either stop or
Scott.
No way. No.
Listen to
fucking
it
way.
again.
listen
I
to it
feel like
again.
says
Maybe it's
Scott.
suggestion,
But yeah.
You done
play
yet?
it one more time.
Yeah.
Play
Yeah.
it one more
I'm gonna
time.
turn it up.
Amplify.
If that
it.
says Scott, I'm never going on another investigation again.
I mean, it's hard to say. It could
Yeah.
say stop. It could say knock. It's definitely any one of those words, but here it is, nice and amplified.
That's a stop. That's a stop.
I mean,
That's a
it's
stop.
more fun being Scott for me. So
It is.
stop.
It is. But it is definitely. I mean,
There's something there.
that's that's not a background voice. That's not
No,
someone
that's
else.
that-
Because you hear background noise and maybe people talking in the background, maybe downstairs.
No,
but that is clearly something saying something
was
like
communicating.
Scott.
Yep.
Scott is speechless. Do it one more time for Scott.
Yeah.
No,
Amplify.
I'm going to make it his
one
ringtone.
more time. Yeah, we should.
to me, and I'm being honest.
No, it may sound like
Play it one more time, please. That sounds like stop.
it
The word
sounds like
stop
either
to me.
stop or Scott.
I
No
mean, I can go with
fucking
stop.
way does it say stop?
I can go with
It
stop.
might.
God,
But
they
it-
already know you on the other side. You
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my word!
we were introducing ourselves when we were in the room.
No,
That's
and
true.
you
You
did
know.
that each room we were in.
yeah,
You
we
did do that
introduced
each
our
room we were
names
in.
and said our names.
we're
to it.
waiting for you,
So-
Scott.
Like, tell us a story about one of those moments where you're like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, I mean, there was one at Payne House where I actually saw that little girl.
You don't have to tell us about anything at the Payne House.
Yeah,
We could skip
sitting in
those.
the
None.
sitting in the
Ken saw an
kitchen. I
apparition.
see her float across the hallway.
Wow.
And to
Like a
back that
residual?
up, we had a camera pointing in that direction. The weirdest part about it, as we lined up the timestamp, you see like a pulsing energy go across the hall.
Go across.
On the camera?
Yes. I saw a little girl. The camera saw a pulsing
some sort
light
of pulsating light
inside, which was weird because when I looked it up, I found that there have been other instances where somebody caught something similar on video. So I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. But there's been a lot of stuff at Payne House just to hear a voice out loud, and I'm just dropping F-bombs because I can't believe it. But one of the other ones was going into an historic place and just being in a room by myself in total pitch dark. And I'm looking and I see this thing about 8 feet tall, just darker than the darkness of the room.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm inside that thing, and like I'm reaching behind me trying to find the doorknob, because I'm hedging my bets there. It's just kind of like, all right, I'm going to observe this, but if like this thing like moves an inch toward me, I may have to like beat feet out of here.
Right.
So
in other words, you're in a dark room, but there's something that you can see that's even darker than the darkness.
Yeah, if there was a figure in there, like a human being, they would appear to be a little bit darker. And I mean, there's been so many with voices that just come out of the darkness at you. I've had a vacuum cleaner thrown at me one time.
Oh, I was going to talk about that one.
Yeah.
I think Tom's told that story before. Yeah.
I mean, that
the vacuum cleaner being knocked over
Where
while
was that?
This was at, can we say the name of the place?
Yeah, it doesn't exist there.
Okay. It was called Nature's. It was kind of a store where you can go and buy like different stones and gems and lots of like earthy, stuff like that. And
crystals and shit like that. Yeah.
And we were investigating there. We did a few investigations there. In the basement, on one investigation, Ken had a vacuum cleaner slammed into him. It was just up against the wall, and like we had it on camera where this board against the wall pushed into the vacuum cleaner, and then the vacuum cleaner hit Ken. So on the next investigation, we set that vacuum cleaner up in the middle of the room, and we put 2 different cameras pointing on it, and we just gathered around and we just dared it.
We locked it.
You
in
provoked.
The upright position.
It was locked in upright position, and we didn't
shook it
provoke,
around.
but we said, knock it over. If you can knock this thing over, knock it over. And sure enough, this thing got knocked over pretty violently.
Wow.
Right in front of all our eyes and on 2 different cameras.
I still have the video of that.
Yeah, so. It's freaky. And when you slow down the video,
that'd be
you know how a vacuum cleaner is sitting on like 4 wheels and it's upright?
Right.
You can kind of see it got pushed from the back, so you can kind of see the back wheels go up in the air, and then the whole thing flips backwards.
But at the end of the night, you said, let's try this. Do you guys want to try an SD session? And we were like, what's that? So for our audience, explain what that entails. And then I actually have a video with the audio, so you'll be able to hear what we were doing, because we did 2 of them.
Right.
So first describe what it is.
Okay, so what it is everybody's probably heard of a spirit box or a shack hack radio, where you're scanning through AM or FM frequencies every 0.2 of a second. And theoretically, the white noise that's produced enables a spirit to be able to speak through that. And the white noise thing has been around forever. It goes back to the 1800s, 1900s. So what the Estes method is basically you tap into that device with a pair of headphones, and they go on the subject just like mine are right now, but we use noise canceling headphones, so the only thing that person hears is what's coming through the headphones. They can't hear anything else in the room. And what we'll do is blindfold that subject as well to eliminate sight. So it's almost like a sensory deprivation thing where you can't see, and the other thing is you can't read lips either, but all your senses are focused on your hearing. So the rest of the people in the room will ask questions as you would an EVP session. And whoever has the headphones and the blindfold on will say out loud what they believe is coming through in terms of words or a series of words, whatever that may be. So they don't know the questions we're asking. And at the end of the day, what you want to see if their responses somehow corroborate with the questions that they can't hear.
Yeah.
And I've been both ways. I'm not a real proponent about it, but the last couple of times we can use it, and one of them was with Scott, I have to honestly say that it was really compelling. And I have to give it to you. And, you're going to play the clip so everybody can judge themselves.
Now, from my point of view,
you have no idea what's being asked in the room.
I was just going to say,
right.
to give my point of view, I have the headphones on, I'm blindfolded. I literally can hear nothing, but I hear static. And every once in a while, it literally, in my ears, what it sounded like is radios that are on scan.
Yeah, it's like if you've ever watched Transformers when Bumblebee talks.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That is the best description. That is the best.
Because it's scanning through all these radio stations.
And it sounds like AM radio. It's not FM radio because it's not like stereo. It's like AM radio, and it's on scan, and every once in a while it stops, and you'll pick up words. And the words I hear are pretty clear for the most part, so whatever I heard, I would say. And once in a while, there was a couple times the words I wasn't too sure of.
But you said it. I hear an inaudible word.
But if I heard it, I would say it. If there was a couple times I believe I said inaudible because I couldn't make out what they said. But the rest of the time, if I could, I would say whatever the word was, and I would repeat it. But I couldn't hear anything in the room. I didn't know if someone just asked a question or not. I only repeated what was in my ear.
Especially because, again, for the audience, he was blindfolded. He couldn't see people asking questions. He couldn't hear people asking questions.
I could not
tell.
All
he was doing was repeating the words he heard through the voice box.
When I heard I said it.
And I will say, I have always thought the whole spirit box, voice box thing is absolute bullshit. When people are sitting there and they're sitting in the middle of a room and they're putting together these stories through the spirit box, but I've never seen anyone do the sensory deprivation the sensory deprivation where they can't hear or see the questions, but then they're just all Scott was doing was repeating whatever words were coming out. And Ken had said it. What is the normal percentage of coherent answers to questions?
Oh, if you get 2 out of 10, you go like, okay, that was interesting. In this particular session, Scott was around 60%.
Right.
Where I'm saying in the context of the question, the response could definitely
made sense.
Be taken as yes.
Right.
And that's the other thing too, is I don't have any real context with this because I'm not a person that is involved in watching shows with this.
Yeah.
Right.
The best part
I
is
am
you were the literal blank canvas.
Exactly. I'm like
all he was doing
was
was
placebo. I am the check to the balances with this because I have no context with this whatsoever.
All you were doing was repeating the words that was said through that box.
Because the first couple times they asked me, I said, "No way, I'm not doing this."
Yeah.
I'm not.
Right, so what that eliminates is a subject who knows what's going on, and they just start saying things they want to hear. A demon, murder.
No, exactly. Because I'd never seen it before. I'd never been involved before.
No.
So I don't know what you're asking.
And Scott's not the type that's gonna want to say demon or whatever, or
Kill me.
And to that point, we did do an SD session right before Scott with one of the other participants that night. Right.
Yeah.
And that. And I mean, that wasn't bad. I don't know. I honestly, I didn't record it, so I don't remember what happened. But I don't think he was saying shit that like.
Well, there was one time where there were common words that were said between him and then in Scott's session.
Right.
He repeated those same words
to corroborate it. Right.
I don't remember that specifically.
Well, because you don't remember the words. All you remember is, you just said stuff. So,
but I scripted out both of the sessions.
Oh, did you?
I did. And so there was some similarities in the questions and intelligent responses between both sessions, which is what made me think that there was something there.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, this is all random.
Exactly.
And to me, the Estes method, it's very random no matter how you're doing it. And a lot of times you ask a question that could have any number of intelligent answers.
Right.
So the fact that you blurted out a word that is one word of 1,000 that would be appropriate for the question that was asked.
60% of the time that night.
But
right.
60% of the time, plus it was a lot of the same theme from what the first session was. So that was like the odds were a little bit weird on that for me.
All right.
So here is the SD session. It's probably about 9 minutes long, but honestly, this was the most interesting part of the night for me. So I'm going to play the entire video. For those that are just listening, you're going to be able to hear the questions we were asking in the room. And I think in the beginning, to the point that Ken was saying earlier tonight, like we were kind of rapid firing questions, but as we got more used to it, we kind of backed off and just asked the question.
There were a lot of people in the room.
Yeah, there were a good, 8, 10 people in the room.
Way too many.
So here is the SD session. I'm glad that we got to talk about what it is. I'm going to try and skip to the point where we start. But again, because we lost video earlier, I got to reload this. So
that's okay. Well, this is probably the first time I've seen Nestle's method that I thought was interesting.
All right, so let's see. Scott's going to go pee because he just whispered it in my ear.
No, that wasn't Scott.
No, oh, shit. All right. Scott. All right. So here it is.
EVPP.
So EVPP. So here is Scott, and again, there's like 8 or 9 or 10 of us sitting around.
Asking
Scott's
questions.
sitting at a table, literally with a blindfold. For those that can't see it, a blindfold and noise canceling headphones.
Yep.
And we're just asking him questions. So here it is.
This is something called the Estes method.
All right. This is a gentleman named Scott now who's going to try to listen to you. Could you say hello to Scott, please?
Who was with you?
Are you still with us?
Yes. Now.
I'm wondering if you could go and get Sarah for me, please.
Are you speaking for everyone here?
Yes.
Can you tell me where you are in the room?
Later.
Is Sarah still here with us? What is important?
As he told you.
Are you male?
Yes.
I'm female.
Can you tell me your name?
It was just something inaudible.
Do you need help?
More.
I'm going to ask you again. Can you tell me your name?
What kind of help do you need?
Shoving.
What is your favorite animal? Is someone being shoved?
Hard to say.
Where is this happening?
Any of them. That was loud.
Are the girls still here?
No more.
Is there anything that we can get you? Is there anything we can bring you?
Too much effort.
Is it daytime or nighttime?
Stay away.
From who?
Four.
The house that we're in right now, do you live here? Is this your home?
Way too many.
Way too many people here?
Still coming.
How many people are in this room?
Church.
Are you a traveler?
A long time.
Do you come here to visit this place?
The park.
Where is the park?
A rat.
Are there rats in the house?
Yes. Wow.
A rat as in a mouse, or a rat is a bad person?
2 weeks.
How many rats?
5. Down.
Where are they?
Still down.
Are they in the basement? Are the rats in the basement?
What color are the rats?
Five.
Are you moving?
Of course.
Where are you going? Are they big rats or small rats?
Too much.
Should we stop now? Would you like to go? You can end this.
Maybe.
Do you like visiting with us?
Sort of. Mostly. Yes.
Do you like the females in the room?
Think.
Do you have a message for us?
There's nothing.
So that was something called the Estes method.
where Scott couldn't see anything and you just heard things in the headphones.
All right, hold on. So, oops.
I just realized I was wearing the same shirt that night.
Well, you know what, Ken? When you have a classic, you just stick with it.
That's it, man.
Right.
That's what it is.
So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of random stuff that goes on with that. But what was interesting to me was, it asked, like, there were certain questions that either it was an unbelievable coincidence, or it was truly intelligent. Because when it said rats, how many rats, and Scott answered 5. Are you? I think it was. Are you okay with answering questions? Yes, mostly. Like there were definitely, so like you had said, normally like 20% of the questions and answers make sense, and it was about 60% where it did make sense. He had no idea what we were asking him because of the noise canceling headphones. He was merely a conduit to answering what he heard.
And what was weird when I watch it back is there were certain questions where the answer was almost immediate.
Right.
There was a
and
few
others
times
it was a
where-
delay.
and a few others where there was a delay, but the ones where it was almost an immediate answer was like, holy shit.
Well, and they said, "Where are the rats?" Below.
Yes.
And then they were like, down
Yeah.
down in the basement. Yes, mostly. Like certain things that were
Right.
said just were. I mean,
Well,
either that is an unbelievable fucking coincidence, or
Well,
it's
here's what makes me think something's here, because the guy Chris who did the same thing right before
Right
you,
before me, Yes. right.
he also was saying the word rat.
Really?
Yes, during his session.
Yeah, I don't remember his session.
Yeah,
So-
if you look during when you said the word rats, Melissa from our group, who was sitting behind you to your left, like immediately perked up and pointed to the other guy
to the other guy that had
that said rats.
heard the same
Yep.
thing.
Towards
right.
the end of his session, he started talking about rats.
Ah.
And then during your session, rats came up again.
Right.
Which to me, that's a little too,
coincidental.
Yeah, too much
like,
coincidence
how many
there.
times does the
How many times do
same
you say the
word
word
come
rat on a radio station?
on a radio
or something?
station?
Right.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Well,
If it's just randomly scanning radio signals, how often is rat going to come up? It's
Yeah.
not like it says Van Halen.
Right.
You know?
Well, Rat is a
Fleetwood
band.
Mac.
so-
Well, true. That's
Here's the
true.
Depends if you're on the 80s
Here's-
hairband
here's the
station.
thing on that.
True.
That's true.
When I was listening to it again, I mean, it really took me back. And a lot of times when you, on a second list, it's the first time I'd seen it. to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Oh, really?
And a lot of times when you go back on these things, you're like, it wasn't as exciting or
As I thought. Yeah,
as
yeah.
it was in the moment. But that's not the case. There were 6 yes or no questions asked. And he said yes to every one of them. Not once did he say spare tire or
Right, right.
squirrel. There were
Yep.
6 yes or no questions. To 4 of those, he answered yes. Now, the rat thing, he repeated something. Are there rats? Yes. How many rats? Now, listen.
5.
You can, anything, a gazillion words can come out at that point.
Right. Why
We
5?
asked for a number, and Scott says 5.
Right.
They're down, and then he repeats 5 again.
Yep.
You know, so in a second listen to that, it's, you know,
It's even more compelling.
yeah, say what you want about the method and you'd be right, because there's audio pareidolia too, where you
Right.
hear a certain. So this is why the first guy who did it is a little bit of a paranormal enthusiast. So I'm
I
kind of
see.
like, but like I say, Scott in that position was just a blank canvas. I'm not sure he knew what the hell we were doing, really.
No,
Yeah.
I had never seen or heard that before.
Quite frankly, I was surprised he volunteered to do it because I was ready to volunteer to do it. But when he said, I'll do it, I was like, holy shit. Well, he's really getting into this.
Well, because, at first I was like, no way, no way, no way. And everyone kept going, come on, come on. And then finally in my mind, I was like, you know what? If I do it exactly that, I am like kind of the placebo. I'm the person that there's no preconceived notions. There's nothing else. So let's try it.
Yep.
I'm not going to get hurt doing
Without
this.
a doubt, I know you were just repeating the words you heard as you heard.
Yeah, you
them.
weren't making shit up because you're fucking scared of this
And
stuff.
but I was also a little bit like, yeah, this might be kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
In my mind,
But what did it feel like watching it back, hearing you answer questions?
But I remember that night, and when you tapped me, Ken, and I took the headphones off and I took the blindfold off, I was a little like, almost like I had forgotten where I was in the moment because
you get lost.
You were just focused on repeating the words.
So focused on hearing these words in my mind that I got that tap and I took that off and I was like, oh, that's right. This is where I am.
Well, you know
now,
what? I mean,
now I watch it back and I was like, oh my God, I can't. I it takes me back.
It was
to
making
being
sense.
That. Yeah. It makes.
Well, this
a
is
little more sense
why
now.
I like to pull people out of it sometimes. Not that you're in a trance, but white noise pumping in there for 10 minutes can mess with you. So I'm like, okay, I know we're on to something here, but it's time to tap Scott and let's tap out of this.
Well, it's like you said, it's sensory deprivation. So yeah,
it messes with your head a little bit. Yeah, exactly right. And I remember that moment when you tapped me. It was like it kind of shook me out of the being in a little bit of a daze that I forgot where I was.
Yeah. I'd like to see the experiment done in a more controlled environment where there's not as many people asking questions that aren't related to each other and have a little more focus. One person in the room is asking about what day it is. Another one is asking,
what's your
did you
favorite
live
animal?
here?
Yeah, right.
And, I feel like it's overwhelming. But that was just our situation at the time. We had to make sure everybody was involved.
But you have to remember this too. Now, this is scanning through at 0.2 of a second. Right? That's pretty damn quick. So when you're saying things like, yes, okay, you can get that. But when you're saying things like hard to say, right? 3 syllables in 0.2 of a second, it's like one station said hard, the next said to, and the next said say. I mean, not impossible, but you know what I mean? That's
very rare.
And that was the thing, is I was trying to be very, very focused and not miss any words.
Right.
So I just sat there the whole time thinking, just say any word you hear and don't miss anything. Right. And that's why I didn't know if any questions were asked. I didn't know what was going on.
You were merely repeating what you heard.
I heard into my ears.
Yeah. Which is the way it should be, right? And that's why I say I've always thought the whole spirit box thing was bullshit, but it's interesting when you have someone totally deprived of their senses just repeating the words as other people are asking questions. And I think it would be, I'd be very interested to be at a session where only one person is asking the questions. Where everyone else is quiet and one person's asking the questions.
Yeah, the other thing we've done as a variation of this is we put a splitter on the headphones where 2 people are listening to this and they write down their answers. So in other words, if they think they hear a word, they raise their hand and just write it down. Don't say what it is. Just to give that extra security so the other person
to
doesn't
take that
hear it.
power of suggestion out of it.
And then compare the two to see how many common words you're in. And that's sort of, I'll be honest. I mean, that's sort of a bullshit test. So we do that to say, is this worth pursuing or not? So we've done it with mixed results.
Yeah, because even then, one person hears something, the other person might have missed it. Because it's so fast.
Exactly right. So the idea is, in this particular case, I would say, for the most part, we get a lot of gibberish. This is probably one of 2 sessions that I've conducted with this that I can honestly walk away from and say there may be something to this after all.
And I remember you saying it that night. You were like, wow.
Yeah, no,
that
seriously.
never happens. It's never that controlled. It's never that in sync with the questions that we're asking.
And I'll be honest. I only said things that I honestly heard the word.
Because if you didn't, you said something inaudible.
Yeah.
Like he was clear about that.
I didn't try to interpret it. I didn't try to put it together. If I heard it, I said it. If I didn't hear it, I said inaudible. Or I didn't say anything at all a couple of times. When I thought I might have heard something, I said, no, that
I got the
didn't
real
say
impression
anything.
that something was trying to communicate a message to us that had to do with rats.
And I
really
almost
felt
wonder, because there were multiple times, even though it wasn't a direct answer to a question, there were multiple times he either said too many or something to that effect.
Right.
And I almost wonder if that was whatever it was in the room saying there's too many people asking questions. Too many. Hard to say.
Yeah.
They said it multiple times.
It was
or
being
the amount
bombarded
of
by
the amount of spirits that were there because whoever it was also
Maybe.
said more coming.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
Yeah.
But I actually thought we were going to have to get up and go look and see if there was some rats in the basement, just by the way this thing was communicating.
Well, you know, the other session...
I did see one dead rat in the attic. I did. No, I'm not lying.
Yeah.
I saw a dead rat in the attic.
Yeah. The other thing that happened there was probably other things with the first subject, the kid that we had do it. There was one point that somebody asked him, "What's your favorite color?" And his response was gold.
Yep.
I remember that. Yes.
Now, here's the thing. If there's a lot of red, blue, green, orange, there's a lot of things you could say. But to say gold is kind of weird because it's a color, but it's kind of out of the norm. Like if he had actually said green, I would have been like, wow. But this was something a little above and beyond. It wasn't the typical, because at that point are you sure you can't hear us?
Right. The only time gold is a color is in the 64 box of Crayola crayons.
Pretty much.
Right? You didn't get gold in any other one. I thought that would have gotten a laugh. Never mind. Now Scott's getting tired. Okay. Normally
I'm
he
not
laughs
tired.
at
That
that
wasn't
stuff.
that funny.
That was pretty funny. 64 bucks with the pencil sharpener in the back.
Oh yeah. No, wasn't that funny?
Come on. All right.
Wasn't that funny?
Fuck you.
You tried too hard on that
Hey,
one.
should Scott go fuck himself? Yes.
Well, I don't know if I should be, excited about it being over or
For one more year, but rest assured, I'm still planning next year.
yeah, as excited as you get about planning it, I know you were already planning it before this year was done. So, but
that's why Scott, as our buddy Casey Masterpiece from the Mixtape Podcast would say, that's how Scott feels right now. I feel like
each year I learn a little bit more about why I don't want to go.
Yes,
but it's interesting. It is.
You heard
interesting.
it. You heard it in this episode. You heard 3 investigations that are going to happen this year. So we are going to be chock full of actual investigations for SCOTTober 2023.
Yes, we are. I keep getting sucked in. Like my buddy over here said, he gets me over to that cigar bar with a bourbon in my hand, and he starts sweet talking me. And next thing you know, I've committed to something that I didn't even realize I was saying yes to.
Yep.
And I end up at the Conjuring House or investigating the Bradley Playhouse or back at the Payne House once again doing investigation.
That's exactly where you'll be this year.
But we're lucky enough to have these amazing guests come on. Cody and Satori, we thank them so much for joining us every every year and bringing some of the most amazing items in that have some great stories. You know, Ken's always an amazing guest, and the fact that he takes us under his wing on this investigation like he did this year, can't thank him enough. And then, of course, you know, Andrea taking time, you know, right after a hurricane, she's in Florida and takes time to talk to us. Can't thank her enough. And of course, Joe Chin joining us and talking about his stories. But of course, we have to thank Tom Stewart more than anybody.
Absolutely, because if it wasn't for Tom Stewart, this whole concept of SCOTTober would never have happened.
Not
it
even
started
close.
with one episode with him coming in with some investigation, some stories, and some EVPs, and it's just kind of grown since then.
Yep.
And he's actually given us a shout out on his podcast as well. So we really thank him for that.
Yeah. So
Tom is a huge friend of our shows.
Yeah, Tom's a great comedian, a very good friend, and if you guys like the paranormal stuff, check out his podcast, My Paranormal Story. It's a great podcast. He tells, you know, real stories from the investigations he's been part of. It's a great listen. Tom's an ex-radio guy, so he does a great job
storyteller
with the narration, a great storyteller, and just puts great stories together. So you got to check him out. But other than that, you guys, we love putting together these end of year wrap ups because it gives us a chance to go back and kind of relive the year and some of these amazing episodes. So we hope you guys are enjoying them as much as we are.
Exactly.
If you have a chance, if you've never done it before, please, wherever you download your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, wherever it is, please give us that 5-star written review. It's a big help to the podcast. Another great way, of course, Patreon. We have a Patreon page. We'd love to have some patrons.
Yep.
You know, it's a great way to support us and help, you know, keep this podcast alive. You know,
and you get bonus material and, you know, some swag and stuff like that by doing that.
Definitely.
But yeah, we really appreciate it, and we hope you're enjoying these end of the year episodes. Next week will be the best of 2022. So some of the stuff that you haven't heard on the best of the funny bad gigs and the best of SCOTTober, we will have some clips from some of the other guests throughout the year.
Yes.
Definitely going to be including, you know, one of the first ones that we had was Art Bell talking about Comedy Central and the beginnings of Comedy Central.
Yeah.
So
how he helped start it, basically, which
and then
was
a
great
whole
conversation.
and then a whole slew of other great comics. So stay tuned next week, and then, you know, the week after, we start right back up. We've got some special episodes coming up.
Good guests coming up, man.
We're going to tease it tonight. Maybe we'll announce them next week. But we got some great guests coming up, and we think you're going to be excited. So, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. I know I say that on every episode
because we mean it.
We truly do appreciate
it.
every one of the listeners that listens. So, other than that, we'll talk to you
next week.